Your brain is wired for negative emotion. So after the first year of life, your brain is wired to start
big
having
six, right?
the big six, we call them the big six. So
it's given to me.
So you've got anger, fear, sadness, shame, hopeless despair, and disgust. So your brain, after the first year of life, going into the second year of life, your brain is going to have those responses. It's often called the terrible twos, because a lot of parents are like, what's happening to my child? Who is this? Like these big feelings, because your brain's amplifier gets turned on and activated. So our brain, God created us for upset feelings. And here's the difference. Like, here's the key. Like, we are going to have anger. We are going to have disgust. We are going to have, shame. The key is, do I have people who remind me who I am while I'm feeling this feeling? So in other words, when I'm mad, what helps when I'm mad is having someone who can validate and go, wow, I can see you're really mad here. What helps when you feel this? So the key is not to feel alone in our emotions. And that's the key. So with my joy switch doesn't mean I need to connect. My joy switch can be on while I'm reading a book sitting next to my wife. If my joy switch is on, I'm aware that she's there. I care about her. And we're not talking or interacting. I'm reading a book. If my joy switch is off, I might be annoyed that she's breathing too loud and I'm trying to focus on my book. Like, it's amazing what our brain gets bothered by in enemy mode, right? But the joy switch being on just means I'm remembering who I am for me, but I can also be aware of what's going on around me and even care about people. We don't even necessarily have to interact. So what happens with emotions is when I feel a feeling and my brain hasn't learned to quiet that emotion, then I either get stuck, which is not going to be fun, right? Because then I can't quiet, I can't recover back to joy. I either get stuck in the emotion or I just learn to sidetrack to a more manageable emotion. So I might be feeling disgust or I might be even feeling hopeless at something, but I'm mad. And people say, why are you mad? It sounds like, you're really feeling disgusted, or you're really feeling really sad about this. Why are you mad? Well, anger feels more manageable than some of the other feelings. So your brain will gravitate toward what is easier for me. So people get mad when they're really feeling some shame or they're really feeling some despair. But the key is, have I learned that when I have a big feeling that someone's still with me and glad to be with me, even while I'm feeling my feeling, or do I feel alone in it? There's an excellent example early in Mark where Jesus is mad and we are told he's in a rage, basically. It's when it's the Sabbath and it's the Pharisees bring a man with a shriveled hand.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They're testing him.
Yeah.
Right? So this is one of the few times in the Bible we actually get a sense as to what's happening in Jesus and, what's his emotional experience. And the Greek word is orge, and it just means like if you're furious, you want to kill someone. And this Greek word, when it says Jesus was mad, it's actually more he was furious, he was irate. And then Paul uses this in Colossians to say, put these away from you. Orge, is wrath, is one of those words that Paul says, don't even go there. If you go here, it's going to be bad. So we know it's a big feeling. It's a strong feeling. And if we forget who we are, and we probably say or do things that don't reflect who God made us to be. But here's Jesus, right? He looks at their hardness of heart, the Pharisees. And what does he do? He is so irate. Does he drop kick the Pharisees? Does he put them in a headlock? What does he do? Well, he tells the man with the shriveled hand to stretch out your hand, and he heals the man's hand. Like, Jesus was so irate. He did a
miracle.
He did a miracle.
He's like, yo, stick out your hand. I'm like, wait a minute. That doesn't jive. That doesn't jive with the British Jesus.
No, it doesn't. And it's if somebody is in that feeling, you see in their body language, they're mad.
Yeah.
But here's the key. Jesus remembered who he was. Now, when we get angry and we can't manage what we're feeling, we forget who we are temporarily. The joy switch goes off. We act like a different person, or we say and do things that don't reflect our heart and our values or our faith. So what relational skills are? Relational skills are what we learn to manage these feelings and still be ourselves and be our relational selves and remember who we are. And so part of what this means in our communities is we remind people who they are when they forget. We don't get stuck on their malfunction. We actually remind them who they are relationally when they forget, when they lose it. And that takes some skill here, Travis, because I have to admit, there's been times in my life I've been with people who are irate, and I tell some of those stories in the book.
Yeah, you did. So one of them was you.
Yeah. Well,
I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
wow, we're getting real here.
Oh, very real. I've got lots of stories. Yeah. And the key ultimately is, can I remember who I am and help you remember who you are while we feel this and while we process this and while we navigate this? And that's usually where things break down in a lot of teams and leadership teams and so forth. When there are conflicts, mean if I don't have relational skills, problems become bigger than relationships. And when problems become bigger than relationships, something's going to happen that's not going to be good. There's going to be a cost. And so part of this is, being the people who remember who we are, no matter what's going on, no matter how I'm feeling, what emotion I'm in. And so part of what we do in our ministry is we're actually training people in exercises and skills to be able to do this. So that's kind of what we do at the end of the day. We're training people to be Christ-like and to remember who they are under all kinds of conditions by learning pathways back to joy from your upsetting emotions. And so, like with your wife and those dynamics that you described, when people are upset, they need to feel seen, heard, and understood. And if you don't help them feel seen, heard, and understood, you can predict they're going to feel minimized, they're going to feel alone, and they're not going to feel joy here with you. So that means I shouldn't try to fix my wife, but I should try to listen and validate, like, wow, honey, I can see you're really mad at me because I forgot to pick up some milk on the way home. Yeah, I really dropped the ball. So what can I do? What needs to happen here so we get back to joy? So I don't break the relationship. It's like, okay, I messed up, and I can see that really affected you. So I'm not defending. I'm not justifying, like, well, I was busy, I had a long day. That's just going to create, like, now she feels alone and her upset. That ain't going to be good. That's putting out a fire with gasoline.
You had a long day.
Oh yeah.
I had a long day too.
Well. Yep, that's exactly.
You mentioned this. I remember I was trying to witness to one of my neighbors. He was Jewish, and his parents had been through the Holocaust.
Oof.
And he was a professor, and so we would get together for breakfast every so often. And we got into this conversation, and we started talking about forgiveness. And his expertise was in kind of like Jewish relations with other countries and cultures and with the Holocaust. And he said to me, it was actually very wise. He said, try apologizing without saying I'm sorry. And he goes, I'm not trying to be jerky. I'm actually saying use other descriptors that convey what the person feels.
Yes.
What your action did. So then they feel that understood, that validation that they, like you said, seen, heard, and understood.
Yeah.
And I tried that. I mean, at first it was very offensive to me because I'm like, well, wait a minute. I should say I'm sorry. But I understood it when I started trying to do it. And I'd say, I realized that what I just did right there made you feel small,
good,
and little, and demeaned, and forgotten. And I will not do that again. I deeply apologize for the feeling. And she's like, okay, and she felt better.
That's good.
And then she felt more validated in that. Now I wish I could say I've always done that well. And now she's like, I know, and now I know what you're doing.
Yeah. She's on to you now.
Like, I know. No, she's not like that. My wife is not. She's one of the most forgiving, amazing women, and she's listening right now. So she's incredible. She is.